I'll start by saying that this setup is worse than anything the IRA could or would do to a person. I should know because the IRA boss did ride down the street the other day. I've been I'm recording myself. I've been meditating on Patricia Hearst, not Patricia Wevel, not Patricia Wevel, whose boyfriend was Nigel, who had the band The Young Homebuyers. That everybody supports. No, I've been meditating on Patricia Hearst. You know, that girl who was kidnapped from a university dormitory. Well, that's the story. That's the. I've had a picture on my wall now. I've been meditating on her, how she would have felt, the sort of people who would have done it to her, their motives, the positive experiences they had, and so on. I thought though when she was doing the bank robbery with the machine gun, she looked pretty sexy. She went to prison for her role in the bank robberies. The kidnapping part, it didn't play any mitigating factors. She couldn't say, "But Your Honor, they kidnapped me." I think she was sent to prison for, I don't know, 10 years or something. And they totally, conditioned her so that she married her what is it called? Her guard, the guy who was hired to guard her. Just to prove that premature sex before marriage is the worst crime anyone can possibly do. Just to prove. Well, poor old Patty Hearst. I should just mention that some what are they called? Real stupid. I mean, really clever, intelligent people have read something I wrote and placed graffiti outside where I walk to follow on from Professor Rascalocha, young Italian guy, the head of the mafia. Yeah. The graffiti says Bundy, because Ted Bundy was, I don't know, a story in the newspaper, in the media, saying something. And so Bob Dylan in recent years has assumed the identity of Ted Bundy. And lyrically, they're quite entertaining songs, but we're not allowed to be entertained. That's illegal. Sex before marriage, capital offense. Entertainment, capital offense. One must lick the boots of death as one's only role in society. And if you do that again, Alex Whelans, I'll tell you to get up. So what you have is a completely false oh dear. Mm-hmm. There were the Chinese Communist Party men have visited here 5, 6 times. I think they got a contact further along, and they have a character I've seen in various situations elsewhere as their British Australian leader. I don't know. I just can't get into politics myself. I just can't get into it. Politics. Having a point of view, a political point of view. I just can't do that. Just can't get into it. Yeah. But what was that? Oh, they had something on TV or on the computer talking about stuff to do with the olden days. And the interesting thing was that I think everybody who works for the state government of South Australia is mentally retarded. Mentally retarded. One of the most interesting books I read, which I thought was, I've been to France, you see, and one of the most interesting books was written by a guy called John Paul Sartre, and He's got an interesting point of view. He's got an interesting point of view. It's like Cain slew Abel, but everyone, all people, all humans are no more than an erect penis. And when your erect penis is no longer erect, you go to sleep and die. Hence the Australian phraseology, you dickhead. It's an interesting book. You really ought to read it. It was translated by Mary Warnock. He got a Nobel Prize. I've got to talk like this because the president of France is bugging me. So, for example, is bugging me. I was given a purple biro, but when I saw it originally, it was white plastic. Now it's pink plastic. A lot of that sort of, black magic, and I should just continue on with your all just erect penises. With the counter argument saying murder is magic. And so people who do magic are murderers. So, for example, that letter on the floor there from SRF that went missing, the person who did the magical trick is a murderer. And I've just got to put up with it because, the magicians, in South Australia, want to tell me a joke or two. Anyway, I'm so dry throat at the moment, I'll have to go get some water. That's funny though. It was white plastic. Now it's pink plastic. After a sleep. Oh. Yeah, I'll just tell a story about the mafia. The mafia, they're not the brightest sparks or the brightest light in the room. And they work, it seems, at a totally visual level, with as little thought as possible. And that's all I'll say. They made a mistake. So Yep. At the moment, I'm having a lot of difficulties with the computer. I believe it's the President Donald Trump and his people who are screwing around with the computer to someone, and and of course that's not going to happen either. Murder as magical thinking. It's a really, just a pretty old fashioned idea, but to see it articulated like that, to have someone able to, I guess, see through it and write about it is something that's pretty extraordinary in this world, particularly when he comes from a country where they chopped off the heads of the royals. You know, oh dear. Ooh. There's if you insist. The thing about Woody Allen is that he comes from a place called New Jersey. And New Jersey, apart from having Albert Einstein living there, was known for their mafia. They weren't known as Murder Incorporated. They were known for their mafia, who, when Prohibition and all of that took place, the Depression in USA, took over the entire nation. Seemingly. But that order has been reversed and changed around, and now they're going to do that, but they're not going to do that. Oh dear. Oh dear. I met a character who was in Adelaide, not overseas in London, advertising on tube stations, but a character in Adelaide, a Frenchman, who advertised as the clairvoyant from Paris. And, a lot of people just function normally at the level of clairvoyance and telepathy, particularly state government workers. But the guy's name was Bernard, and I was just, you say, oh, wow, the screen just flickered off. The person who's monitoring it just gave you a bit of positive feedback. Yeah, I was watching a movie that that guy from New Jersey, Woody Allen, did about Bernard, the clairvoyant from Paris. Only problem was it was in the French language, and one had to read the what are they called, subtext, to understand it in the English language. And, if there ever was a killer, Woody Allen certainly rates amongst the all-time greats. But the movie was about Bernard. His name that he used was Bernard Tanag. I went to see him, and his office had been arranged by the Hughes people, the Hughes Corporation, the Hughes people. And so the old doctors, the doctor, what's his name? Dr. Lyndon Johnson, that doctor who was there, his office was taken over by the clairvoyant from Paris, Bernard Tanag. And so what happened was we had a consultation. And since then, anytime I want to talk to someone who's, say, a doctor, I'm not allowed to. It's illegal to talk to a doctor. Or to a female. I don't care. But I'll tell you about that Carlucci while I'm just, going, while the circles are going on in my mind. Now, there's a character who was able to totally change the planet politically, but in no other way. You might have noticed how there are just so many Italians now in politics, New York and all these other places. Well, that's about all I can think to say. I'm having a lot of difficulty breathing as well because my lungs are gone. But Bernard Tanag, he was a clairvoyant from Paris. He was he attempted to be quite professional and had an arrangement to record all conversations, but edit the recording while it was being recorded. To sort of edit your memory of the experience. Clever man. I don't think I paid him. But yes, we did have a 1 hour conversation. As far as I know, he didn't kill anybody or have murder in mind. You know how it is, but I do know now that there are secret agents from France in Australia. And that would have been the last thing I'd have thought of, even at the time Bernard was here. Oh, but I was saying they had a white picket, they'd installed a white picket fence in old Dr. Lyndon Johnson's consulting room. And the Hughes people had arranged for Lyndon Johnson's consulting room to be removed and moved up the street there, opposite, in some shopping place, not a big shopping place, but one of those shopping places where it's all on the pavement. The shops are all on the pavement, and there's no back story. There's nothing behind the shops on the pavement. And so that's where Dr. Lyndon Johnson's consulting room, so went there. And they did it so that Bernard Tanag, the clairvoyant from Paris, could come and have a conversation with me. Now, people use clairvoyance and telepathy in a number of different ways and for a number of different purposes. Some say that it's all based on sexuality and all clairvoyance, and that stuff is a sort of a sexual gambit, a sexual interaction. Whereas Bernard's seemed to be experienced enough to be able to have a conversation at a level where the clairvoyance and the telepathy was used in a different way. Unusual to say the least. But how clairvoyant was he? How telepathic was he? Well, I'll give you the example. When I was in Paris, I'd met a girl on a bus named Genevieve who said, "Why don't you live in Paris in the artist quarter? I'll come and see you." I said, "Well, okay, yeah, sure thing, babe. No worries, lady. Yeah, no worries, babe. I'll do that. That's a really good idea. Could you spare a dime? I'm blind, you see. Could you spare a dime?" You know, a dime bag. Heroin, could you spare a heroin dime bag? So what Bernard did through telepathy, clairvoyance, was find that experience, memory, and start a national campaign to quote the conversation in the newspapers, where rather than the artist quarter, it was a quarter page ad in these newspapers. The Advertiser, Rupert Murdoch, the Afternoon News, the Herald Sun, all these newspapers, quarter page ads on either page 2 or page 3. And he got into an argument, let's say, with Dante. You've probably never heard of Dante. I'd never heard of Dante apart from Dante's Inferno. And that I figured, this is the guy who's been setting fire to places associated with that quote-unquote member of the mafia. And one of those fires was $1 million fire. And the character who owned the place rang me up and said, "Well, look, there's no work, no employment. But if you want to come and have a look at what the fire did, man, you can know the whole place has been destroyed. There was a fire here overnight." I said, "Okay, sure thing. All right, I'll come and take a look at this." Went over there, and man, the whole place had been burnt to the ground. And Dante from Paris runs. He is the man, the clairvoyant who did it. It had nothing to do with Miss Mafia. She's not intelligent enough to set fire, or have someone set a fire like that. But Dante, he's from Paris. They chop off the heads of the royals if they, get into a bad mood, and they drink their blood and eat their bodies, for the next 500 years as chicken. Because before that, people didn't eat white meat and, chicken. Anyway, so what was I thinking? Oh, yes, Dante and what's his name? Bernard Tanag. What a nag. They had a sort of war here. I'm just sort of recalling what I had written before. Well, I'll just very quickly. And so Dante, I think he was in Sydney, and Bernard Adelaide, having a newspaper war between each other, using quarter-page ads, the artist's quarter-page ads for over 18 months, I think. Must have cost them, a small fortune. And Hollywood saw it, and Hollywood did those Star Wars movies, made $1 trillion. And the only thing I got out of it was a tape cassette of a consultation with the clairvoyant from Paris, Bernard Tanag, about whom, what's his name, Woody Allen has a movie which is spoken entirely in French language with subtitles. I'm fairly sure that Bernard left Adelaide. On the side, he was a musician. You know, a musician. With electronic type of stuff. And I didn't bother to check the cassette recording, you know, to see how he had edited it and so on. I know he didn't crash into me in the car or anything. He didn't make anonymous phone calls either, or send me weird letters through the mail. So I didn't listen to it. But it was interesting to meet, you know, someone from Paris living in Adelaide, using, you know, that fake name or a nom de plume, Bernard Tanag. Yeah. The newspaper, by the way, the advertiser, they know that there's a character who owns a flat opposite where I live, and they know he's acquired a new property around the corner in the lane there that's been painted black. And he's acquired the property, and so the advertiser, being real clairvoyant, did a little article about him saying, "Guess who has got a new property?" No, they're not really telepathic or clairvoyant, but they do, you know, follow the trends. He never introduced himself. I did once visit him. His character had lived in Duthie Street near Unley High School, and when he moved out, a small hospital was placed in the house. The building was demolished. Small hospital was placed there. Moved to McGill with his girlfriend, what was her name, Beverly, who I met on the train. From Melbourne. I went to Melbourne to do something, as that Woody Allen movie showed. In Melbourne was quite good because there were, I don't know, places where they had booths with tables, and you could sit in a booth and get someone to bring food to you, and you could have a coffee or stuff like that and look out through the window. They don't have anything even vaguely like that here. But I met this woman. She worked for the state government, I must add. And, you know, the state government really helped her boyfriend, you know, acquire properties. They deliberately privatized state government houses so he could buy them. You know, because she works for the government and, you know, we'll do anything. Well, bend over backwards to help one of our own. White, not that. But I did meet her on the train, and I asked her, "Do you mind if I stick my feet up your jumper because my feet are feeling cold?" And she said, "No, all right, if you insist, it's all right as long as you don't sort of get excited." And I think her name was Beverly, you know, like Beverly Hills. You know, Beverly Hills, not like Beverly Hills. Not like Beverly Hills, no. But it's a good name, Beverly. Beverly is a good name. She worked for the state government. Wow, man. And the state government bent over backwards to help her boyfriend buy some houses the state government owned after they privatised them. And one of those Woody Allen movies is about exactly that. Her name was Beverly, but she moved up to. Oh, there we go. There's another one of those. The people monitoring the thing. They can flick the camera or the picture to say, "Oh, we're not watching," or "We are watching." It doesn't make any difference. But she moved up to a place in McGill on a particular road, and the newspaper said, "Oh, that's where the police commissioner. That's the name of the police commissioner of South Australia." So he got a really good deal. I decided it was too far to go. Plus, he had a boarder who claimed that he had a terminal blood disorder. And, I don't want to be around sick people. And the problem here is there are a lot of mentally ill, sick people. There's a lot of sick people on TV too. A lot of sick people in show business as well. And in politics as well. But somewhere, I think her name was Beverly. I forget her boyfriend's name. What was his name? Can't remember. Beverly, though, was very, very, very thin. And just a couple of weeks ago, the same character who bought the privatised flats or apartments opposite me showed up with what looked like his daughter, who looked so thin that the reaction is she's not eating enough. But, some men like very thin girls. As for where her mother is or was, she wasn't there, so chances are she's passed away. Oh, well, never mind. But he has acquired another property round the corner, and the advertiser knows about it. Yeah, I was thinking about. I have been meditating on Patsy Hearst for about 6 months now. Getting the feel of it, the pattern of the stars, the pattern of the planets, the movements of the planets, the change of season. It's really quite a sad story, what they did to her. Apparently, one of the things they did is they kept a hostage in a darkened little room. Kept the hostage, gave her drugs. The one story says they'd come in and have sex with her, 3 times a day, a couple of different men, 3 times a day. Another story was every day for 40 days. But she didn't want to really talk about that because after a while she probably enjoyed it. You know how it is, the captive syndrome. You begin to enjoy the character coming into your place and taking stuff or breaking things or stealing your car or doing stuff. But you begin to enjoy it. It's like an entertainment. Well, it isn't, but it is like entertainment. They entertain themselves, and it's entertaining to see people, behave almost human, almost as if they're almost human and not just animals, scavenging for food and knickknacks and shiny objects. You know how it is. That woman who said the difference between us and the animals is we use tools, she died the other day. I think she's wrong. I think there's a lot of difference between us and the animals beyond just using tools. But then what can you expect from some crazy woman who lived with apes? I mean, what can you expect from her? Who wasn't sort of very well educated or anything, and had probably never married or been in love or hated her parents or whatever it was. So cheers. I'll see if I can turn this wine back into water. It's really easy to turn wine back into water. You want to see it? I'll turn this glass of wine into water. Oh, I love the taste of water. Okay, so poor old Patty Hearst. It's a shame, but they did get her to do what they wanted her to do, which was to marry. And, she'd been so, brainwashed by the system and the kidnappers and all the rest of it that the first man she saw, who was her guard, she married him. I think she had a child with him, or maybe two children, or maybe none. And I'm not sure, but her father, that wealthy businessman, Mr. Hearst, Randall Hearst, I think he gave her husband, the security guard, a job at one point in time. That was quite official and quite a good job. He wasn't Randall Forward though, but Randall Forward, he's got so many people here in Adelaide. Pink Floyd, they love the Randall Forward. They love him. Randall Forward, poor guy. He'd been brainwashed. And why was he brainwashed? Well, his parents had given birth to a child who was totally deformed, who couldn't stand, couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't do anything. And when one looked at her, all one saw was a black mass of, I guess, something that's living. And so the parents would sit around when she was brought out in front of the nice handmade fireplace from a magazine. They'd sit around and they'd drink there it happened again. Yes, we heard that, they said. They'd sit around drinking, I don't know, whiskies or not something like the French do, something like whiskey or maybe, I don't know, one of those exotic British type of liqueurs, and just, admire the fact that, she's still alive and she's doing well, she can breathe, and she must be, 30 years old now, 40 years old. But, when you look at her, or when one looked at her, all one saw was just a black lump of, I don't know, of a human form. Yeah, it's funny. The fireplace, by the way, that they had, which was interesting, had come from a magazine, an American magazine, How to Do Your Own Fireplace, put tiles up over the fireplace. That's where they got the idea for the shuttle, tiles. Put tiles up on the fireplace. And in America, by strange coincidence, one niece went to a house in Arizona or someplace, and they had the exact same fireplace that was in Randall's parents' house, but smaller. You know what I mean? Yeah, what a coincidence. What a coincidence. Other coincidence regarding Randall and his parents, very early parents, is they built a new house on Williama Street in Walkerville. Supposedly, it's very quiet there, but it's not sort of as lugubrious as, you know, some people, Italians in particular, would like. But the coincidence is Williama. Carol Baxter, her mother's name was Wilma. Wilma. And she was on TV, or her daughter was, or their whole family was, but only as a cartoon show called The Flintstones in a town called Bedrock. And they lived in a cave, and Wilma was the boss of the house, and of course Mrs. Baxter was Italian, and what else? That was a good cartoon show because later on I'd meet Wilma and various people here involved in, you know, organized crime. Even knew the color of the leather jacket she wore in the 60s and 70s. A brown leather jacket. I mean, can you imagine it? Picture a woman, black hair, quite thin, wearing a brown leather jacket with her Irish husband. Just picture that. Mm-hmm. But they had tricked me, conned me, because everything that, apart from what the younger daughter Carol said, everything the sister said, and everything that was said was, let's just say, a bit of a practical joke. And turned out to all be false. Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting that the people who were involved were the same people who, well, I won't go into it, but I did have contact, I was told to give a paper to this professor of psychiatry named not Rossiter Shoes, but Ross Carlucci. And he's real fortunate because in the United States, you know, the powers that be that investigate these things and try to reverse them have been playing real old California movies with the name Carlucci in them 3 times. You know, that's what they use TV here for. They don't use it to entertain. They don't use it to, you know, bring joy or to communicate any ideas or anything like that. It's a system designed to prevent progress and consciousness and thought. And I won't go into details that I know about them, but you know, they're really gung-ho. They really believe it. Well, I can say this much. I'm going to finish this in 10 minutes. The first time that I wrote to an address where, what's her name? Where, I forget her name. Wilma, where Wilma's daughter was supposed to live, mailed something, a gift off to it. And the local guys who are involved in, you know, some pretty good black magic stuff killed a possum and left it outside my window where I could see it, because there was a TV show that was live where Dame Edna Everage would say, "Hello, possums." And they got her identity from a dead policewoman, a sergeant, and his wife, Edna, who died in a car crash. So in one way, that was okay. It was good, I suppose. But these guys didn't appreciate it. You're not allowed to do things for Channel 9. It's got to be Channel 7. Channel 7. It's got to be Channel 7. It's got to be Channel 7. Because Rupert Murdoch started Channel 7. And he's got a doctorate in philosophy from a British university, so he couldn't possibly be fallible. He's infallible. Never makes a mistake. That sort of thing. That sort of thing. Yeah. The dead possum. Yeah. I don't know what happened to the dead possum, but it's not there anymore. Oh, yeah. But Wilma doesn't live at that address, and neither does her daughter, or the other daughter, or the son. The people running it, well, I won't say, but the people running it introduced themselves on the moon landing day. And, it's an awful long time to have a career, of anti-intellectualism, anti-intellectualism, and so an anti-love, of course, anti-sensuality, anti-male-female relationships. Yeah, it's funny. So that's a good one, isn't it? That's a good one. Of course, Wilma was a Labour Party supporter, and the character that she gave her house to when it was time to leave town was a Labour man, and they had found out that I'd been to Paris. So they placed him as ambassador of France, and one day had arranged to place his gold MasterCard on the street corner, and it was valid and it was still there. Of course, I saw it and said to myself, this is a con. Some criminals who have broken into his house have put this here. And then they opened up a bottle shop, a booze shop. And then, of all things, Professor Tim Mears' eldest daughter, who was still single, moved into the house and had 6 women living with her. And, God forbid, she was so crazy that she saw me one day just walking down the street and jumped in her car and said, "Come on, let's go for a drive." And the car she had was the car of the elderly people, 1972, who caused me to break my wrist, who drove me home, forgot to give me their name, drove me home. The place was under surveillance. They saw the car, make, model, and arranged for Tim Mears' elder daughter, psychiatry for children, get the exact same car. Time just stands still. some people just don't think about anything. They don't know how to think, unless they're given a task or something like that, or they get voted or something. I think her father supported the Labor Party though. Because back then they introduced this idea of ethnic affairs because there was a northern suburb totally set aside for British migrants. And they had one band that grew up there called the Bee Gees, who became international sort of smash hit band, even playing with Barbara Streisand and Olivia Newton-John. And oh man, can you believe it? They came from Elizabeth, that you could say segregated area for British migrants only. And so, Department of Ethnic Affairs was created so that the minority ethnics, the ethnics who don't play pop music and don't have a large audience, they can sell pop music too, or films or movies, can think of themselves as being ethnics, ethnics. And that's not, racial discrimination or anything. It's, it's just, Hitler would have thought of the same thing. In Germany, the different ethnics, and, the majority of the ethnics, they were more of them than the minority of the ethnics. And so they're superior in size to the smaller ethnics. And that's how Europe evolved to such an advanced state it is now, that Russia's going to try to, undo it all and bring in, bring Christianity into Europe. Anyway, it's almost time to turn this off. Yeah, but that's where they got the idea for the shuttle, with the tiles from a magazine that was telling women or people who want to build a fireplace, like at Willie Armour Street, the fireplace was 8 feet tall. But the identical fireplace in, I think it was Arizona, where they got a niece to stay in the house, was maybe 3 feet tall. And of course, she had no idea what was going on, because, she's so guilty of everything, having the parents she's got. Her father's Satan, and then there's this other guy who's Satan, and then there are these two black guys from Bhagwan Soham's London office who look like Satan, the Black Panther in the zoo. And I just wonder what they're doing here. And, oh, man, it's just unbelievable what's going on. So, cheerio, there's your 59, 60 minutes. You can't help people who support the Labor Party, I'm afraid. They just can't be helped. Somebody forgot to teach them how to think independently of other people or activities or so on. Think independently. That's what Timothy Leary was saying. He went to Italy for some academic thing. The first week he was there, his wife was found gassed to death in the car, and they very good Italian paparazzi. The police, the paparazzi in Italy said, it's obvious she killed herself, gassed herself, gas, like the Auschwitz gas chambers and so on. And it's funny because, well, I've just lost my train of thought. It's funny. It's funny because it's funny. It's funny. Yeah, it's funny. When Tim Leary died, he was sitting there, terminally ill, having a glass of beer, nice cold beer, saying, well, at least I've had one of the most interesting lives of the 20th century. And then he turned to his Jewish friend, Richard Alpert, a son of a wealthy, the people who created half the railways in America, and said to Richard, why weren't you busted? Richard just grinned and said, oh, I got no idea. But I go to the same synagogue that Albert Einstein goes to. And that was the end of the show, just the show that America, believes in equality, open legal system, justice for all, no prejudice, no racism, no religious prejudice either. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Okay, so cheerio, and gee, I hope it doesn't get any warmer. 3:08 p.m. Saturday afternoon. Flat 1, Unit 1, 36 Rundle Street, Kent Town. The door in the kitchen has engraved on it that it comes from flat 28. However, there is no flat 28 anywhere here. When a workman saw it and heard the story, he stopped working and just left and walked out the front door and never saw him again. But, that's the sort of funny things, really magical thinking things.